And welcome everybody to the 40th episode of the Hashtag Invest This podcast. I'm your host, Scott Bauer, and today we have John Martinez with us today. John, how are you doing?
Man, I'm doing well. Thanks, Scott.
Good. John is the founder of the Midwest Revenue Group, which is a group dedicated to helping elite sales teams in highly competitive industries convert more prospects into customers, period. So if you are looking to take your sales to the next level, Midwest Revenue Group can help, and I can attest to that. So, John, why don't you tell listeners a little bit more about your background and kind of what you're focused on now?
Yeah, cool. So I'm just a sales guy. Wasn't really born a sales guy, but I got into sales early on, struggled through it. Kind of worked my way up to the ranks, starting all commission and that type of stuff, door-to-door type of salesman for insurance. Over about the last 2 decades worked my way up through corporate America, held some pretty high roles, VP of sales, marketing and director of sales for some large companies. And about 4 or 5 years ago, transitioned into what was my favorite thing. It was just training salespeople.
So, going up through the ranks, we all kind of started in some sort of sales role. And for all the listeners out there, just so that you guys know, I was just at an event that John was putting on for basically for the sales system in San Diego. So we just got to hang out for a few days just a couple days ago. But, so I kind of already know this story. We talked about it, but I want to make sure that all the listeners out there understand. So when you start in any sort of sales role, whether that's door-to-door marketing or cold calling or whatever it might be, it's a hard business. Doesn't matter what you're in. It's a hard business. And so what were you trained at in the very beginning? Did anybody give you any sort of training?
In the beginning, it was almost no training. It was all activity based. So it wasn't like this is how you sell effectively, but it's like, just keep trying. So our training was basically, it was in insurance, and I sold health insurance plans to the self-employed, like us, right? We got to buy our own insurance. Still like that today. So I would walk into a business. I would see if I could talk to the owner, ask for a few minutes at a time. I'd flip through this like laminated flip book thing. It was like 10 or 12 pages. And then I'd say, here's how much your cost would be. Here's your premium. Do you want to get going? And I'd ask for a check. So that was a training. So really nothing to do with sales or anything like that. It was just, hey, if you do this enough times, you'll get, some people will say yes. So whatever that averages out to, whether it's 1 out of 10 or 50 people, the more you do it, the more sales you will get. So just do more and more. So that was my sales training.
Okay. And doesn't sound like there's really any training at all, but let's kind of move into, is it all training that you're doing just for any type of business, or is it real estate specific?
Yeah, so we're deep into real estate. We are, last I counted, it was 50 industries. We're probably in closer to 60 industries today, or have trained in 60 industries. For the last 4 or 5 years, though, I've been heavily focused on the real estate investment space. Didn't mean for that to happen, but I started training a few investors, and there's a big need out there. It took over the business for a long time. So I've got trainers throughout the country in other industries. My personal focus is the real estate. Is in the real estate. And that makes a lot of sense. I think that, it's one component that a lot of, it doesn't matter whether you're a realtor, whether you're an investor, whether anytime you're talking to people, because your sales technique that you've, put together it's really a process, and you can use it in so many more ways than just selling a product or service, right? You're negotiating with your kids, like we talked about, whether you're talking about, negotiating anything at all. And really, life is just a matter of negotiation with other people, right? Yeah. It's about communication and negotiating, basically. Every day you're kind of gunning for what you want, right? To put yourself in the best position. And it might be something just as simple as, hey, I really want to go to lunch at this place today. How do I convince my coworkers or my wife or whatever it is that, hey, let's go to a Mexican place today? Yeah. Or kids, or so many different things. But real estate specifically, the whole business is based around, it's just centered around acquiring a property at the best price possible, right? There's tons of exit strategies. There's There's single family, there's multifamily, there's buy and hold, there's wholesaling, wholetailing. There's tons of strategies, but it all starts with getting the property at the right price, right? So there's almost nothing more important on the real estate side of things than securing a property, because that's where it all starts.
So with that being said, then, I mean, do you have a lot of real estate yourself? Do you utilize the techniques that you teach to everybody to go buy more deals for yourself? Or let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah. So no, I'm not in real estate. It's not my core passion, but it doesn't mean that I haven't purchased a lot of houses. And so I'll tell you what I mean. When I got into this, I was sales training for quite a while before I got into the real estate space. But when I learned that there was such a need there, we were getting kind of pummeled by investors all over the place. Once we trained a few, then we really got pulled hard into the business. So I said, I really got to know this business inside and out. So what I started doing was traveling the country, and I worked with some pretty high-level investors, basically from coast to coast. San Diego, Corona, lots of Southern California, actually, Florida, Texas, St. Louis, just a little bit of all the markets. And I just get in the car with salespeople and train them by basically buying houses. I said, you just sit here. I'm going to have the conversation. We're going to, make offers, buy houses today. And I think I've probably personally purchased about 50 houses that way.
Okay. So that's a good amount of houses, right? Would you say that, let's talk about the business. Obviously, I know that the training side of it, I understand what that looks like, but from a business standpoint, because most of the listeners on this podcast are real estate investors and business people, right? So let's talk about the business, because it's all you. It's hard to scale, right? Is it hard to scale the John Martinez sales training because if you're not there,
you would think so. Honestly, I thought so for a long time. I was like, this is my brand. I'm basically the product. Because for a number of reasons, because I've done all the training for so long, people know me in my name more than they do my company name. So, it was really hard for a long time, and it was hard for me to wrap my head around it. But, I'm in a lot of masterminds and listen to a lot of podcasts and that type of thing. And I finally one day gave in to the notion that it's not about you, it's about the systems you put in place. And I already knew we had a heck of a sales training system. So after that, it's just like every real estate investor. So what are all the pieces of business and how do I systematize them? So how do I get leads? How do I systematize that? How do I turn the leads into how to convert those leads? I know sales process, so that's easy to script out and design. Then how do I deliver the product and how do I systematize that? So we've actually built all the systems, put those in place. And as much as it pains me to say, man, I'm not the business. Like it totally survives and thrives without me. I was talking to a couple of our trainers today, and they're like, "Oh, today's call rocked. We're just getting tons of traction in other industries." And as much as it feels good, like from an ego perspective, to say like I make this thing run, it's all me. It feels a lot better to know, hey, I'm building something that can go without me. It all comes down to having the right systems in place.
Yeah. I mean, it has to feel good. It's like watching your kid grow up and not, and actually grow up into something, right? I mean, that's kind of the ultimate goal. And I think that for a lot of investors out there or any business owner that could be listening to this podcast, that's the ultimate goal, is to get to a spot where it does run without you. You no longer have to nurture it in order to make sure that it doesn't die, right? Yeah. And so let's talk about how long that process really took for you to get from the start of Midwest Revenue Group and kind of the big hurdles or big downfalls that you had to get to where you're at now, to where it's running on its own.
Yeah. So I'd say, man, the biggest hurdle was and it's going to sound so cliche, so I almost hate saying it, but it was between my ears. It really was. And it was the two things I mentioned before. Number one, I thought I was the business, so you just can't replicate it, and that's what I was dealing with. And number two, it was part of an ego thing. I think part of me got some type of satisfaction by thinking only I can do this, right? Like I'm so special that only I can pull this thing off. And once I figured out, I guess once I was forced to come to the realization that I don't want to run a business that way forever, as much as I love what I'm doing. I love the reasons why I'm doing it more, the time with family, the freedom, all, just the same stuff for any entrepreneur, or any person that wants to build a business. It's all the same, right? Just that total freedom. to do what you want, when you want, how you want, and have the resources to do those things. So once I got to that kind of breaking point where it's like, I can't keep up this pace forever, I was forced to try a few things to start to remove myself. And once I start to see some of those things worked, like moving from a one-to-one model to a one-to-many model and things like that, I go, it was just like, shoot, I'm seeing it work, so it could work. So I just took baby steps, one thing by one thing. And I was like, my gosh, I pulled myself out a little bit more. It worked. And I just kept going that way. So first 4.5 years was me getting out of my own head. The last 6 months of the business, we've really been scaling very rapidly. That was actually the easy part. I mean, once I got out of my own way, it's just as easy as simple, but it takes a little bit to pull off. Hey, what are the things I actually do? Can other people do these? And as I went through all those things, the answer was other people could do everything that I do. So I started offloading those things from sales and marketing. And then the last pieces were, can someone else actually do the training? And that was a really scary part. But I trained some people up, and they're out there and they're, doing really, really well. So I'd say 90% of the time was just me trying to realize or convince myself that I could. And once I made that decision, it's been pretty quick.
Yeah, and I think you made a very valid point and started to say it. I think it was about to come out that it is simple, but it is not easy. And so
Right.
just like the sales process that you teach to get people to convert them from a lead into an actual customer, it's kind of the same way when it goes from converting your one-man show business into a live, thriving business, right?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, can you talk about that some more? Because I know that there's a lot of
Yeah.
listeners out there that are one-man shows. I was for a long time, and it's hard to get out of your head. It's not a simple thing.
Yeah. So, I'll make the comparison. I think I've never really thought about it that way before, but that it was spot on. It is just like the sales training, and I'll explain. So number one, for the sales training to take place, for it to work, people have to do stuff that they haven't done before, right? So, hey, if you're going to learn any new skill and apply it, you're going to be applying something you're not used to doing. It's going to be really uncomfortable. So when we train salespeople, that's the biggest hurdle we run into is getting into that zone of discomfort and just pushing through. And it was the same with scaling. I know one of the big pieces for me was the marketing piece. And the reason that was trouble for me to outsource is because it's very costly. So I'm watching those dollars because it's our biggest spend. And I didn't feel like anyone really would know our brand or what we do or be able to speak our language to our customers as well as we could. So I could tell you, I don't know how many times while outsourcing the marketing piece, I really wanted to pull it back in. I knew I couldn't because I'd been down that road so many times before, and I had failed and come to the conclusion, I need to give this to a professional who knows what they're doing. But I'd spend a little bit of money, like, okay, here's 10 or 20 grand out, and I didn't get immediate results, right? So instead of adjusting, just kind of pivoting a little bit and keep pushing forward, I had to have the tendency to pull back. And if it wasn't for my wife, who'd just say, no, this, logically, this is how you got to build it, hang in there, I probably would have pulled back. So it was so important for me to have my wife just kind of checking me, just, hey, stop, don't freak out. It's going to be uncomfortable. You're not going to get immediate results. The results you get aren't going to be just, perfect out of these world results. You're still going to have to work on it. You're going to have to tweak stuff. You're going to have to work with the company, the outsourcing company and this and that. But I'd say pushing through that discomfort is the exact same when learning how to sell and convert as it is to anything you scale in your business. Because letting go is hard. It's uncomfortable. Anyone you outsource to is not going to immediately get as good a results as you could get, right? So you're going to see some diminishing returns, but it's 100% absolutely necessary.
So would you say that, and that's very, very, very valid, getting uncomfortable, is probably the most, actually on a call I had earlier today, we talked about getting uncomfortable and how on the other side of uncomfort is the riches, like we talked about last weekend, and is the other, is the victory. Once you get outside of your comfort zone, that's where the magic really happens.
Yeah.
But to back that up then, would you say, what's your wife's involvement? Is she a partner, so to speak, or?
Yeah, she's my wife, so I don't think she's legally on the business, but hey, if something went south, she's got half of it, right? So
Right. Right.
she's right there with me. She's, full partner. So she runs some of the stuff I'm not good at. She does all the finances. She's ended up taking over sales for the company, actually. We've got a call center. She runs a call center, runs the staff. She's really good at managing people. So she's taken over all that for me. I'm trying to get to a place where, and I'm very close to being there, but doing just that one thing that's my superpower. I'll be the first to tell you I suck at like a lot of stuff, but I'm really, really good at the sales thing, right? At not just sales, but to niche it down even more, I'm really, really good at teaching others how to sell effectively. So that's all I want to do. That's all I want to spend my time doing. So she's taking care of almost everything else. And if she's not personally taking care of it, she's put the people in place, the processes in place, and drive that part of the machine.
And I mean, so that's 4.5 years. So how long have you really been trying to do this on your own? I guess I'm trying to gauge, a timeline or a time frame for other listeners out there that, maybe are in a struggle or in a point where they're grinding hard and not, or are trying to still figure out exactly what it is that they're wanting to do. And,
yeah.
It takes a process.
Well, I'll kind of give you the timeline. So, grinding it out. First of all, I took a leap. So when I decided hey, this is what I'm doing, I'm going all in. I went all in. It was, I bought a domain name. I built a website overnight. I told my boss I'd no longer be working for him, leaving the company. And I went all in. And as scary as that was, it was necessary because then, it's like if you're thrown out in the middle of the ocean or a lake, like you got one choice, it's start swimming, right? It's like, that's it. There's no other choice. So I had to start swimming. So it took me probably, I'd say the first 3 or 4 months, I was doing maybe 10K a month. I'd say by the end of that year, doing 20 to 30,000 a month. That's when my big first shift happened. And I went from, it was getting out of my comfort zone. So I was comfortable working one-on-one with teams. And I needed to, in order to scale, I needed to, since there was only one of me, I needed to talk to a lot more people at the same time. So I transitioned to group coaching. And I was really scared because I thought the effectiveness would decrease. Actually, the opposite happened, but that was one of my first mental hurdles. But I jumped that, and I immediately jumped to, I can't even remember anymore, but it was probably around the lines of maybe 30, 40, 50,000 a month consistently. Since then, as a one-man show, I've just kind of been tightening up the screws for the next, I'd say, up until about year 3. Tightening up the screws, pushing to 70, 80, 90,000 a month. That's when my wife quit her job banking to help me with the company. So I could do more marketing, like masterminds, networking, stuff like that. She's been with me about a year. And then after that point, we started hiring staff and really exploding from there. So we do pretty solid. We're deep into the 7-figure revenue mark now. But all that being said, the funny thing is I could have made the progress I made in the last 5 years probably in 6 to 12 months. But again, it was me holding myself back.
Yeah, and I was kind of digging for that because that's so prevalent for so many people, and myself included, where you get stuck in between your ears.
Yeah.
You can't get out, and now you're saying that the last 5 years you probably could have done in 6 to 12 months if you just would have got out of your own head and started putting the systems in place.
Yeah, because it had nothing to do with anything external. It was the time frame it took me to get comfortable making those decisions or feeling forced to make the decisions to grow. So it's silly looking back. It's good for me to realize now because I make decisions a lot quicker. So that's why I think growth happens a lot quicker. And there was another point that I wanted to make, and I'm trying to remember what it was. It'll probably come back to me. I'll let you continue on.
Well, and so, now that you've been able to build this business that operates without you being present in it per se,
yeah.
What does the next 5 years for Midwest Revenue Group look like, or John Martinez in general? I mean, what does it look like?
Yeah. So pretty simple. There's kind of two stages. There's like stage one is where do I really feel like I have to be? Where do I want to be? What's my real goal? And then there's kind of like my vanity goal. Like this will be really cool. I want to just set this big goal and see if I can get there. So the vanity goal, or excuse me, the first real goal is just pretty simple, just about 20 million in the bank. And the only reason I want that number, it's actually a little less if you calculate it out, is because I know I can live off that money for the rest of my life without touching the principal, right? Just very simple, low risk investments. It'll put me in the position where I find, we referenced freedom earlier in the call. So that puts me in the position where I can live the life I want comfortably without sacrificing anything, and do what I want, when I want, the way I want. And I think those things is going to include me continuing to work, but it's just that the fine little difference of working because I need to, and just working because I enjoy it, even if I'm doing the exact same thing.
Right. And
so that's the first one. Go ahead.
Well, like you mentioned, I mean, you enjoy teaching people. I mean, I could tell how much fun you were having with us this last weekend, teaching everybody in the class, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm sure that that's something you'll continue to do. But I totally understand where you're coming from, where you want to be in a place where you don't have to do that if you don't want to. You can take 3 months or a year off and go travel or do whatever you like.
Exactly. So that's my main goal. Just for the company, just to have something to aim for and kind of shoot for. Yep. And I believe you kind of have to have a really big goal, because if you have something you're aiming for, it focuses you, and you can do something with that focus. It's powerful, and you can get to that first goal a lot quicker. So company goals, 100 million a year. It's going to take me about 70 trainers. We're about to bring on our 4th trainer now, so we've got a long way to go.
Did you say
again?
4?
What's that? Just 4. So we've got 4 trainers. So I've got to get 70. So 70 trainers, 20 clients each will put us at $100 million at a roughly a 60% profit margin. So that's the big goal. And I think it's realistic. 70 trainers won't be hard. I could bring on probably 5 trainers a month, 4 to 5. So we can pull it off. The other reason why I like that goal so much is it gives me something to aim for. And even if I fail, like even if I just fall flat on my face and get 30 or 40% of that, that's going to put me at my freedom goal, right? So even it gives me something to aim for. Even if I don't get it, I'm going to get to where I wanted to go anyways.
Yeah, no, and that's huge. Shoot for the moon, because if you fall a little bit short, you're still in space.
That's it.
Yeah, and was this an age thing for you? Was it something where you said, by the time I'm this age, I want to do it? Or has that never been?
No, it's never been that way. I don't know why, but it hasn't. I have been thinking about age. I'm almost 40, so I have been thinking about age a lot more recently. Not from I want to get to this road, or kind of this point in the road by this age. My mom's 69 years old. My dad's 68 years old. I'm watching all the people that I used to, watch on TV, like sitcoms and musicians and stuff like that are passing away, right?
Yeah.
So I think I'm at that point where I'm like, where mortality sinks in.
Yeah.
And then I've got kids, so the kids are growing up. So just because of all those things, I'm kind of having this flash forward where it's, hey, I might just have 20, 30, 40 years left on the planet. What's important? And when I think about those things, it's spending my parents' remaining years with them. We haven't been that close. It's really shaping my kids and building those memories with them. It's being the best husband I can to my wife and taking her on the trip she wants to go on and building the experiences. And so now I'm feeling this urgency to get those things done. And what that does is it says, well, John, from a business and financial perspective, you have to be in a position to get those things done and enjoy them. So that's what, more than age, it's that mortality that I'm, kind of looking straight at that's forcing me to scale quicker and faster.
Well, I mean, in all reality, all you just said right there is you've found your why. I mean, this is why you're doing what you're doing. This is the absolute, those reasons you just talked about is the whole purpose for being in the position that you're in, which is probably one of the most important points to point out is everybody's got to have their why. And once you find it, it's your driving force.
That's it, man. Absolutely.
So yeah, man, that is awesome. Well, for sake of time here, I'm going to go into a lightning round. Are you ready for a lightning round?
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
What is your hashtag invest this tip to keep our listeners moving forward?
Take action. Nothing more important than taking action, man.
Yep. That's I think we talked about that this last weekend, but yeah, taking action is the number one thing that will change everything, right?
You can't lose, right? You're gonna goof up and learn from it, or at least at the very least learn like I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
Or you're gonna make some progress. So there's no losing when you take action.
That's exactly right. You either win or you learn, and either way you win. So that's perfect. Do you have a favorite book that you've ever read that's had a massive impact on your life?
Yeah, and it has to do with that first tip. Richard Branson's "Screw It, Just Do It," which basically just goes through his life chronologically and every decision he had to make when it came down time to make decision to take action or not take action. He said, "Screw it, let's do it," and he took action. And you know his story. Multiple billion-dollar businesses now, has a heck of a life. Looks like he has a really fun time. Right. So that was very impactful because I remember starting my business. I was reading that book at the same time, and in many of the tough decisions, I would literally just think of that book and I'd say in my head, "Screw it, just do it," and that really got me moving.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. I have not read that book, but I'm gonna actually order it today, and thanks to Amazon, I'm sure it'll be on my doorstep tonight. So, who's giving you some really, really good advice, and what impact has that been on your life?
Yeah. I can't even remember who it might have even been through that book. I wish I could say like it was this person at this date and this time, and this is what they said. But somewhere along the lines, and it might have even been in that book. I was reading a story about some general, and I think it was probably around World War II or so. And the general was being asked, what actions should you take? What don't you take? I think it was a well-known general like Patton or someone like that. And, you had all this success, how do you make decisions? And what he said was, the worst thing you could do is not make a decision. Yep. He says, here's how I do it. When I'm 70% sure, I take action. So that goes back into, number one and number two. So I'm kind of beating a dead horse there, but it was that. It gets 70% of the way there. And that's helped me tremendously because I'll tell you, I've never been 100% sure about anything. So just being able to say to myself, am I 70% there? Am I 70% okay with it? Do I have 70% of this thing figured out? Once I go, yes, I take action and figure out the rest.
That's a massive tip of advice because I don't think anybody's really 100% always. There's always a downside or always a question in every decision that you have to make. And so I've never really heard it explained that way, but I really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, you betcha.
How do you like to give back, John?
I donate a bit. The organization lately has been an organization called honor.org. They're based out of California. What they do is they help Navy SEALs transition into corporate life, kind of take their skill set of organization and leadership and all that kind of stuff and apply it in life after the military. So they help kind of help these folks make that transition. So that's as of late, that's been the organization we've been supporting.
Very nice. Very nice. Super important. I'm not a vet. I do know some that are pretty messed up, and it's hard to transition. That's something that I have utmost respect for those people. I don't know if I would put myself in their same position, but that's good. Right. How can the listeners reach you if they want to find out more about what Midwest Revenue Group is or want to connect with you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, just our website. It's midwestrev.com. We also have a YouTube channel. Midwest Revenue Group is what you'd look up. We've probably got 40, 50, maybe 100 videos on there. Real estate tips, strategies, just sales stuff, just real common sense, practical stuff on negotiating and getting the asking price and just simple stuff like that. People really seem to dig it.
Yeah, definitely. And I also know that you also have a Facebook business page. I see you've worked on that a little bit more. So they can find you there as well. Well, John, hey man, I appreciate you being here today. Kind of giving some information about how you got into the sales training business and, kind of how you got there. You've touched a lot of people, man. So all the listeners out there that, are struggling with sales, or if they're thinking about how to just really sharpen the saw in sales for themselves or their sales team, I highly recommend reaching out to John and finding out more about him and how you can get involved with the training. So, with that being said, thanks, John. We'll talk to you soon, man.
Thanks, Scott. Have a good one.
See ya.